This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 243 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I am speaking with Faith Mariah, and we are diving into overcoming imposter syndrome as an online entrepreneur. So we are also going to be talking about money mindset. So I want to make sure that if you haven't already grabbed my revenue planning guide, that you do so. You know, you can always send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose and just let me know you want the revenue planning guide. But it's so connected to everything that we're going to be talking about today that I wanted to make sure that I reminded you guys to grab that. All right, let's dive in. Hi, Faith. How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to chat with you.
Yes, I'm excited for this conversation. Before we jump into it, though, will you introduce yourself and your business to my audience?
Sure. My name is Faith Mariah. I am a blogging mindset coach. I got my start with a mental health blog. So I run a mental health blog called radicaltransformationproject.com. That was my full-time income for 3 years. And then on now, I've transitioned into helping other people scale their blogs into full-time income. And because my background is social work and mindset, I really help entrepreneurs who are stuck in self-doubt or self-sabotage and having all of the mindset drama. We're both entrepreneurs. We're very familiar, I'm sure you are too, with the mindset drama. And so I kind of have combined my skills of marketing and business and blogging with my other skill set of mindset work and into one business. And I really, really love it. So that's what I'm doing right now.
I love it. I just think it is so needed because I think out of everything that I routinely deal with my own clients, that is what keeps coming back up. It's always the mindset, and it can definitely just hold you back no matter how many marketing strategies you have. It's something that definitely holds people up.
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was an epidemic I was seeing in this space of women buying all these courses and doing all these things, but still not making money and failing. And it really frustrated me. I was just like, why is this happening? Like, why are some people making money and then some people staying stuck? I mean, I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it where bloggers stay stuck, not making any money for years. And I was just like, this, something is off, right? And I think people often try to fix the action and the strategy. So they just go different strategy. I'll Pinterest, I'll Instagram, I'll copyright, and they're doing strategy after strategy. But at the core of it, it's like, do you think your work is good? Like, do you believe you can get results for people? Do you stand behind what you're doing? And when you start asking women those questions, women specifically that's who I mostly work with, right? But what I hear from women a lot is that it's hard for us to just acknowledge, like, yeah, I do think my stuff is good. And I do think my work is good. And I do think I can help you. I think for a lot of us, we're taught to be humble and to play small and not take up space. And the reality with marketing is when you're marketing from that mindset, it doesn't matter how many Instagram strategies you do. If you don't think your stuff is good, and you're not putting it out there in a powerful way, it's just not going to work.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I could not agree more. So one of the words that I routinely hear people throwing out is imposter syndrome, right? We hear everybody talk, oh, I have imposter syndrome. What does imposter syndrome feel like though? For those that think they may have it, have had it, what would you kind of categorize it as feeling like?
I think imposter syndrome, the way I see it play out for a lot of people and a lot of women I work with, it kind of is this idea of like, well, someone else can do it better though. Like I have this skill and this skill, but like someone else can do it better though. Like certainly I'm not the one, right? And it's really this kind of pattern of downplaying your gifts. And it's hard to market. Like I'll be straight with you, you and I are both market and are in sales. It's hard to do sales when you aren't in your power and don't really stand behind what you're doing and believe in what you're doing wholeheartedly in a powerful way, right? And so I think to answer your question, like, what do I think imposter syndrome feels like? I think it's almost this idea of like, well, I don't need to step up. I can just play small. It's safe for me to be here and let someone else do it because someone else can do it better. But I always tell my clients, I'm like, what if you're the one? Like, what if you are the one? Like, what if there isn't anyone else? Like, it's a pretty wild assumption to make that not only is someone else going to do the work that you're called to do with the clients you're called to help, but that they're going to do it better than you. It's like, but what if there isn't anyone else? Like, what if you're the only one that can help someone? And then by playing small, you're just letting that person just struggle and sit there and not get help.
Yes, we talk about that. I feel like all the time too, about that by not stepping up, it's almost selfish. And if you just step into knowing that you're going to solve their problem and help them move forward, that it doesn't feel as icky as we have a tendency, because we were trained to think that way. That's actually something I wrote about in my book about how I was trained to make myself small and you're not supposed to brag and you keep it quiet about your accomplishments. So marketing does feel awkward for sure. What would you say triggers imposter syndrome?
I think at the bottom of it is a lot of self-worth-ish like stuff, right? And I think I don't think that's our fault. Like what you're saying, like I think we're internalized and taught these messages from a really young age. And I think for women, especially, there's this energy of like being humble, like the way you're a good woman is you put everyone else before you and you don't really ask for anything and you're putting everyone else first. So it's kind of flipping the script now that we're stepping into an entrepreneurial space because it requires you to be like, I am good at what I do and I can help you. And I think you should work with me. And I think you should pay to work with me. Right. And I think you should do it now. Like that energy for women is kind of the opposite of what we're taught to do. Cause we're kind of taught to be like, well, it's not a big deal. And it's not really like my work isn't that good and my stuff isn't that great. Right. But it's like owning your stuff and being like, I am good at what I do.
Yes.
It's really uncomfortable for us.
It is. And I can think of so many people that I feel like struggle with this. One in particular I'm thinking of, and she's going to listen to this and go, why'd you call me out? But she's a therapist and she's good at what she does. And she deals with just law enforcement, which right now in the time that we live in is such a difficult space to be in. And she's just so good at what she does, but doesn't realize it. I watch her make herself small when she talks about what she does and the results and the testimonials that she's been given. Every time she gets smaller and smaller, and I can see it on screen just via Zoom.
Yeah. And I think it's important to, I always tell people, I'm like, you're not doing the world any favors by downplaying your gifts and being humble. The world does not need any more humble women. The world needs women to be here and be loud and say, we are leaders and we're here to create change and we're here to be seen and to be heard and to be paid and all of it, right? And we're not doing the world any favors when we're playing humble and playing small and acting like, well, what I do isn't that important. Like what she does is way more important, right? I see this with people that have craft blogs all the time, right? They're like, well, you do like mental health. I'm just, a crochet blog. And I'm like, what on earth do you think could be more important, especially right now with everything going on in the world, than joy and happiness and crafts? Like what could be more important than that? Right. But we're the first people to be like, no, like, what you do is important, but what I do is like, no big deal though. Like, that's the energy I see. I think women are very comfortable in because I think we're taught that, right? I think we're conditioned that. I don't think it's something we're all making up ourselves. I think we're taught to do that. And then when we want to be entrepreneurs, it requires us to break that thought pattern and to think about ourselves and our work in a completely different way.
Yes. Oh, I could not agree more. So do you feel that does imposter syndrome ever go away?
I think, well, this is what I think. Well, you can tell me what you think too, but my experience with entrepreneurship has been like, I would say my tolerance for discomfort has gotten like higher. But I also think the reality is, like, as the business grows, like most of us, if you're in this space, you're probably ambitious, right? So once your business grows, you're just going to want to grow it more. You're going to want to be in front of more people and make more money. Now I have a team and all these people counting on me and the stakes feel higher. So it's like, in some ways it's like, yeah, I have more experience. I've been doing this a lot longer. But then on the other the other side, it's like, well, now I'm scaling to multiple six figures. I've never done that before. I've never built a multiple six-figure business. And so I'm kind of constantly out of my comfort zone all the time, but that's what I love about it, right? It's like the pursuit of like, who do I have to become to be someone that can create a multiple six-figure company, right? What's required of me? Like, what fears do I have to face? What stuff in me do I need to shift around? That's what I love about it, right? It's like the pursuit of greatness is kind of what I'm after in all of this. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, 100%. I would definitely agree. And it's always something that I think we continue to go back to, because every time we take a step forward, it's that uncertainty of knowing and being comfortable with what we're doing. And I always tell people, when you get that uncomfortable feeling, that normally means that growth is on the back end of it. It's just pushing through that and not letting the imposter syndrome knock you down so that you don't push through and continue to move forward. I feel, and it goes hand in hand with confidence. Like, people will say, oh, you're so confident. I'm like, no, that's trained. That's me practicing at it and getting stronger in knowing who I am and what I want to accomplish. I don't believe that confidence is something that you're born with. I'd love to get your opinion, because I do feel like they're so connected when it comes to confidence and imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So my opinion as far as like what the difference is or how to become confident, I agree with you. I think confidence is like practice, right? I always say like sales, or people tell me all the time, they're like, I'm not good on camera. Like, you're so good on camera. I'm like, I did not used to be good at camera, like at all. Like, I used to have like panic attacks going live, right? And now I go live literally all the time. It's my favorite thing to do. I teach almost all my trainings live because I just love being there with people and connecting with people. And that's what I love so much about the business and what I do. But it's not like that was a fun, easy thing for me to do when I started the business, right? And I love comparing it to the violin, because it's not like you pick up the violin once and you're like, well, I'm just not good at the violin. It's like, no, you haven't practiced. It's like, so I think of being on camera, sales, like, I'm just like, it's all just practice. It's just, I've just been practicing longer than you. Right. Yes. And so I think a lot of confidence comes from doing uncomfortable things repeatedly. And I love what you said too about just not letting it stop you. And it's just, when I started my business and I was so scared of being on camera and so scared of sales and so scared of like everything, really, I was just scared all the time. Right. I just remember thinking everything I want, this life I want, I had this vision where I was going to have the life I have now, where I work from home and I could be with my dog and I could go to the gym during the day, where I had this freedom and money. You know, I was like, this life I want that I can see so clearly, everything I want is on the other side of just discomfort. And I kind of saw like myself on one side and this vision I had on the other. And I was like, this middle part is going to kind of suck. And I just kind of resigned. This is kind of weird business advice, but I just kind of resigned. The first year was going to be really uncomfortable and really hard. And I was just kind of like, I didn't resist it, right? I kind of at a certain point just decided I'm willing to let people laugh at me and to be bad at this and to let this be uncomfortable and humiliating at times and to feel foolish every day. And I'm willing to do that. And it worked. I mean, I just kept doing it. And those feelings eventually just went away through kind of just like my just unwillingness to ever give up. I just was not going to stop no matter what.
Right. And it's funny because I relate so much to what you're saying about being uncomfortable being live. For me, like, I was the kid in class that didn't raise her hand because I was so shy that I didn't like talking in front of people. And now, you know, I spoke at conferences and did the things, but it wasn't always something that I was comfortable with. I normally had to like go hide in my hotel room before I would speak so that I could just kind of center myself and think about getting up on the stage and doing what I needed to do so they could get value. I think, again, it goes back to tying into the value that you're going to give and not turning it around and knowing that if you're not going to do it, you're being selfish. Where if you do it and talk about it and do the things, that's where there's greatness, I think, that comes out of it.
Yeah. And it also takes the focus off of you, right? I love that you said that. And I think when you're focusing on like, how do I help this person and how do I serve them and how do I say something helpful? It's less about what are people going to think about me and what is, I don't know if you did this, but when I first started being on social media for business, I was like, what is like my ex-boyfriend's mom going to think? And my teacher going to think? And like all these, I was like very in other people's business. Like, what are they going to think about me and making it all myself about me? Right. But when you're like, how can I help someone else? You make it about them and then it becomes less scary and intimidating, I think.
Yes. Okay. So I'm always trying to make sure that we give actionable items to people to be able to take from this. So what are some of the strategies that we couldn't put in place in order to overcome imposter syndrome?
Yeah. I like to teach people to kind of audit their thoughts. And what I like to teach people to do is bridge thoughts. So ideally we would be in a place where it's like, my work changes lives and I'm going to be in front of people and I'm really in my power. But a lot of times we haven't practiced those thoughts very often. We've been practicing thoughts like, this is stupid. Everybody knows I'm stupid. So-and-so is better than me. She has more subscribers than me. Everyone else is like laughing at me, whatever. We've been in our story, our drama a lot. So sometimes we can't get to the affirmation side, right? And I always say your brain knows when you're BSing, right? Your brain knows when you don't believe something. So thinking something over and over again that you don't really believe isn't actually helpful. That's why I think affirmations don't work, right? If you're like, I'm thin and beautiful, but you've been thinking for 20 years, I'm ugly and I hate myself. Your brain is like, no, you don't. Like, no, you don't. So I teach people to do bridge thoughts, which is like, how do we start turning the bus a little bit in the direction we want to go? Let's start like turning some of that inner dialogue around in the direction that we want to go. So a bridge thought would be something you can get behind. And I tell people to just go really broad. So it would be something like, even though people might laugh at me online, I still want to post. Something like that. Like that feels true, right? That would often feel more true than my work changes lives and I'm a powerful leader, right? So it's something more like, even if like people laugh at me, I still want to post anyway. I still want to try. I'm just going to practice. Thoughts like that are headed in the right direction, but that actually feel true, I think will help people a lot more than just trying. What I see people do is try to like jump over the, like over the pond and go right for those super powerful affirmative thoughts, which can be fun. But there's probably part of your brain that's like, I don't know about that. I don't think so. Like, you don't really believe that.
Yes. I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe the bridge thoughts the way that you just did. And I think that it's so powerful because you're right. You can always have that almost, it's not kind of queasy feeling when you're trying to do those big affirmations that feel like, could they really come through true? And by doing that bridge thought, like you're talking about, it just is so much more realistic and still moving you forward in the right direction.
Yeah. And agreeing with that story will take some of the resistance out, right? That's why I was saying, like, if your brain is like, everyone laughs at me and my posts are stupid, like doing something like, even though my posts are stupid, I still want to try to help someone. So you're kind of agreeing even, right? Because you're just trying to take that resistance out. Because if you're just like, no, my work is good and I believe in it, but you don't really, then you're in this weird energetic tug of war where you're just creating more resistance in your brain. So it's almost like kind of agreeing with your story where you're like, yeah, brain, like, you know what? Like my work isn't that good, but I still want to show up and help someone. I'm still going to try. I just want to try. Right. And that can feel easier to get behind for someone. If this is real, if they're really in imposter syndrome, they're just not going to be able to get behind like, you know, my work changes lives and everything I do is great and important. And I'm a powerful female leader.
Yes. So my next question for you is, how does imposter syndrome impact our money mindset? Because I think I have even truly struggled with this, where I got to a certain point, and like you said, I'm ambitious. I want to get to the next level. And then I think to myself, you know, you're insane. There's no way you could do that as a company. Whether you hire a team or whether you try to do it yourself, however you want to go about doing it, that's not possible. So how does it connect to money mindset?
I love that. I love when our brains try to be fortune tellers. Like we know the future. It's like, I've gathered all this evidence for you. I'm going to predict the future. And I always say the past is actually a really bad indicator of the future, which is interesting, right? Because when our brains are doing that, they're just collecting little evidence from the past where it's like, it took you this long to make 10K a month. Like it's going to take twice as long to make 20, but it's like the past, it doesn't mean anything about the future. It's a really bad indicator. But it feels really true when it's doing that. So I'm sorry, what was your question? I got totally sidetracked on that one.
No, you're good. How does imposter syndrome impact the money mindset?
Oh, I think they're deeply related. So I think imposter syndrome and money mindset are both at the core, like self-worth, like around having low self-worth. Right. And so I don't know about you, but anytime I have to up level my income, it requires me to have a deeper level of self-worth. It requires a deeper level of belief in my work, in myself, in my clients, in the results I get from people. It requires a deeper level of belief. And I find when I work on just focusing on really believing that my work is good and really believing I can help people and I can get them results, and I spend a lot of time focusing on that, the money comes to me naturally. So that's kind of how I guess, jump around that. But I think that stuff, it's totally natural for it to come up, right? And especially too, like, going back to the programming we receive as women, like being high earning women is not something we're conditioned that is cool. That is like a positive thing for us to even want to do. Right. I don't know about you, but I was never around any high earning women, like ever in my life. I only ever saw high earning men growing up, which is really interesting to think about. Right. So then it brings up all this weird imposter syndrome where it's like, what does that mean about me? And am I a good person? Right. I hear women say all the time, well, it's not about the money to me. And I'm like, well, it should be, because the reality is, like, if you care about impact, if you really care about impact, like if you're serious, right. It's one thing for us to say we want to help people and we want to do good work in the world and we want to be leaders. Like that all feels kind of okay to women. I think we can get behind that. But the reality is, if you're serious, if you freaking mean that, if you are serious, you need to get some money behind you, because we need to be funded. Like the reality is, for you and me and most of us, like we're self-funding these businesses. Like I don't have investors. And it's like, if I'm serious about helping women with their beliefs and getting money in women's hands, I need money behind me to do that. When I have money behind me, I pay my team. I have people to help me. I have coaches. I have an entire team of people that I pay to help me walk out this vision. Otherwise, you're destined to be small and you can't make the impact. So if you're serious about the impact, you have to be serious about making money and being wealthy, to be frank. Like, I think there needs to be more wealthy women. And I think when there's more wealthy women in the world looks different. And so in my mind, I'm like, if you have the ability and the opportunity to become wealthy, which we all do because we have the internet, like we're in an incredible time right now. If you have that opportunity, I'm like, then it's my responsibility as a socially responsible person that's serious about wanting to make an impact and make the world better. It's my responsibility to become wealthy. Like, that's just how I see it. And because I've linked like social good and money and wealth all together in my brain, that's how I've been able to get behind like hitting those big months like you're talking about.
Right. Yes. And I think part of it too, I think when I think money mindset, and you asked the question about where you said how you didn't see women being the earners, and same thing. For me, I also grew up in a family that was believed in lack. Like, it was very much like you saved every possible penny. They weren't spenders. And it was always because it could go away. It could go away. When I left as being a teacher, it was like the end of the world to my parents, because there was no consistency in how could I possibly think I could do this, go out on my own and run a business and not have any sort of something to fall back on that was going to be consistent. So I definitely understand and know what you're talking about when you're saying, that money mindset kind of really plays into so much that we do.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you bring that up, because I hear that a lot from people. And that happened to me. I left a 9-to-5 job I had at the university that had benefits. I am first generation college. I grew up in poverty. So I had this job with like a salary job with benefits. It was like, I had made it right in my family's like world. It was like, now you're going to work this job till you die. You did it. Like, congratulations. And when I left that job, there was a lot of belief too in my family and community about that I was making a really risky decision. And it felt really risky at the time. It did feel really risky and kind of crazy at the time. But looking back on it, I'm like, I'm so much more secure now. It's like, I have the ability and I know how to do marketing and create products in a way that can generate money for myself forever. And that's a skill, that gives you a level of security that working for someone else will never give you. Like, the reality is, if you're working for someone else, like, they can fire you, they can downsize, like they can let you go and you can lose those jobs. So I think we're sold this idea of security that isn't real, right? Like, I feel so much more secure now. And I think it's hilarious too, because it was like, people were like, you're going to lose your benefits, but now I pay for better health insurance, take as much vacation time as I want, and invest more in retirement than I would have there. So it's like, what benefits are these? Right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. So you're offering my listeners a money mindset workshop. What are some of the key takeaways they'll receive from the workshop?
It is. Well, it's a really good intro to my work. If you're not familiar with me, it's a good old fashioned Faith Mariah money rant. So I say I do impassioned pep talks. So it's one of those, and it's all about money mindset. I thought it went really well with what we talked about today. It's about raising your self-worth and making more money. If you're feeling stuck, like you're just not making the money that you want in your business, or the money isn't coming and you're doing all the things, but the money isn't coming in, go listen to that workshop because it'll help you get unstuck.
Perfect. We're going to make sure that we link to that in the show notes, as well as you guys all know, you can always send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose. Just tell me that you're looking for the money mindset workshop, and I'll make sure just to send you that link via your DMs. Mariah, where else are the best? Oh my God, I did it. I told you I was going to do it, and I'm just going to call myself out on it. So I had said to you, Faith, before we started, I'm going to call you Mariah at least once by her last name as her first name. And I just did it, of course. I almost made it the whole interview. Where are the best places to connect with you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook group. I'll give you the link if you guys are interested in that. faithmariah.com. You can find my Facebook group, my Instagram. I'm on all the, I'm a blogger, as we all are. I'm on all the places, right? But I hang out most in the Facebook group and on the Instagram these days is my favorite spots right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Faith. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and my audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome. I loved it.
All right. Well, there you have it. It's always interesting to me when I meet people like Faith that are very much have the same backgrounds as I do, and to hear our very similar stories in the way that we grew up and the way that we approach things now, and how we've kind of overcome a lot of those mindset things that very well could hold us back and could also hold you back. So I think it's important for us to share those stories and those things that connect us so that you can see that you can do it as well. I hope you guys found this episode helpful. As always, if you haven't left a rating or review, I would so appreciate it. It helps to get great guests like Faith, and it'll take you less than 3 minutes to write a review. All right, you guys, until next time, I will see you all then.